Welcome to Wine Time.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
Where two moms will pour a drink and tell you stories
Or complain.
about moms. This is
Wine Time.
The good, the badass, and the crime.
What's up, wine buckets?
Wine buckets, wine buckets.
So we just wanted to log on really quick to give you a little bit of a intro to our episode today. So this episode today, we're talking about feeding your baby.
Feed them babies.
Feed them babies. Breastfeeding, formula feeding, bottle feeding. We're going to hear some listener stories. You're obviously going to hear stuff from Rachel and me. And then we have a special guest this episode, the one, the only Diane.
Yeah.
But before we get into all of it, I just wanted to say one quick thing. We've said it before. You'll hear it a bunch of times in this episode. But to all our listeners out there, Rachel and I support you. However you are feeding that baby, breastfeeding, formula, however you are feeding that baby, we support you. And we're here to tell you that whatever path you take, as long as you are healthy and happy and your baby is healthy and happy, that is the right path to take. Just a few quick history facts that I found while researching this episode.
Ooh.
So formula was introduced as early as the 1800s, and it started as an additive to cow's milk to make it more digestible for infants. But Rachel, did you know that donkey milk is apparently way easier for babies to digest compared to cow's milk? But obviously...
No, I did not know that.
Isn't that... But, so cow milk is more accessible because we breed cows, we don't breed donkeys. But
right.
If you're ever in a pinch, donkey milk apparently is very good. Did you also know that breast pumps were sold as early as 1890? They had...
No.
Isn't that crazy?
No.
Yeah. So these old ones, too, they look like... You know what they almost...
I want to see it.
I need to show...
Show me.
Maybe we should post a picture.
Send a picture.
But you know when I looked at it, what
Yes.
it reminded me of? You know those... little squeeze honk horns that clowns have, or that you put on the front of a bicycle that it goes.
I do.
That's what
Yeah.
the breast pump looked like.
Yes.
And you honked it. I'm gonna have to find a picture.
Hey,
I found a
you know
picture. I'll
what?
have to show you.
Props to them. Hell yeah.
Isn't
That's
that crazy?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is so freaking cool.
Yes. And then before there was the formula like a lot of moms use today, most babies who weren't breastfed were given a mixture of evaporated milk, cow's milk, water, and sugar. Straight up sugar. They were giving these babies sugar. There's a lot of other things I ran across, and obviously there's a lot of statistics out there about current rates of breastfeeding, current rates of formula feeding, but instead of just getting into all that, I just want to say two things. One, almost every mom that I have personally talked to about how they feed their baby has used some combination of breast milk and formula. Almost every single mother I've talked to. And there are so many different situations and reasons, but I'll leave it at that. The second thing is a quote. I'm channeling my inner Rachel, and I thought this quote was so perfect for what we are going to get into today and our ultimate message. So this quote is from Jocelyn Gray, and it says, "I bottle fed and I breastfed, and before I knew it, they were all eating stale French fries off the floor of the minivan." And I was like, whatever, thanks for cleaning.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So with that said,
so
good. Get ready for today's episode. Feed your baby.
Yes, I love it. Feed your baby!
Hey, Diane.
Hey.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I love your setup in your garage because I love that I can see Henry's little car.
Yes,
So
I love something.
cute. I love it so much. Well, welcome to the podcast, Diane. Welcome to Wine Time.
Wine time. Thank you.
Wine
Yeah.
time.
Thank you, show manager.
I know. I have to do a special.
here.
Yes, I have to do a special shout out. When we were trying to brainstorm how our first mom episode would go, and like how we would work in the different like parts of it, I totally sent things to Diane and was like, "What about this? And what about that? Would you want to listen to this? Would you want to listen to that?" And Diane, you were awesome. You were very helpful. I even screenshotted to her. I was like, I'm going to post this on the story. What do you think? So,
That was the best.
like show manager for sure. Producer, whatever it's called.
Heck yeah, I'm
love
here for it.
Yes.
I love it. And she's got
Well,
her
we
wine
love it.
time mug. Yes.
Oh yeah. Cheers.
I love it. Cheers, everybody. So Diane,
I got
tell
it
us.
today.
I like to know what you're drinking, you know, because that's why
yes.
I'm here. The real reason I have a podcast is so I could drink once a week.
Tell us, Diane.
What are you drinking?
Oh,
Diane?
for me? At 7
Yeah,
o'clock at
girl.
night, I'm drinking coffee because I'm sleepy. Just always sleepy.
Cheers. I also have espresso right here.
And it's even later where
Because
Rachel
it
I
is.
have more than
10,
one
20.
drink.
Rachel always has more
10:20,
than
I
one.
got things to do.
I almost brought in like a water or a LaCroix, and I'm like, I'm at that stage where I need 3 drinks. One for fun, one for energy, and one for...
Yes.
100%
Hydration?
of what I've got right now.
All of the options. Heather, did you hear how she said LaCroix?
Yes. So
Did you
apparently
learn-
that's
did
the
you
right
learn
way to
something
say
just
it.
now?
I always,
No, I think that's how you say it.
yeah, because
I
I
think
think
it's
I end up
LaCroix.
saying it. Look. Okay.
Oh.
See, I don't know.
LaCroix,
I say
like French, but I'm like,
so
no, I'm not French.
Dang, then we still don't know.
still don't know.
Hey,
Just
everyone,
LaCroix.
let us know.
Every
Let us
single
know.
guest that
I
comes
thought it was
on needs to
LaCroix.
tell us how they want to pronounce LaCroix.
Every time we open an episode, it's all right. How do we say this today?
You can send in the most crazy way to say this, whatever this is.
Yes. I can't drink that shit. But what are you drinking, Heather?
I actually have some lemon liqueur, and I put some. Limoncello in it, so it's extra
Oh.
lemony, but pretty good.
Nice. I've never had either of those things.
Rachel's like, I just
And
want
it's
whiskey.
not It's not on my to-do list.
I was gonna say,
Will I have
Rachel,
that?
what are you drinking?
You want me to start with my, like, earlier or right now? We went out to Lexington to go to like a sports bar earlier, and it was funny because we had never been there. One of my friends, coworkers, he had recommended it, and so we went there, opening football night, and we didn't even stay for the game because we were going to come home. I still had to drive home, so I can't like hang out too much, But as soon as I sat down, I ordered like a 4 Roses single barrel on the rocks, and then I had that. And then as soon as that was done, I was like, okay, can I have a beer now? And then so then I ordered a beer, and now for the podcast, I have wine.
Oh my gosh.
Wine and coffee.
I don't know
So
how you do
I
that.
run on
I'd
drugs.
be throwing up.
What? Alcohol? This was all over, like, that was hours ago. So
Yeah.
that was at like 4:30.
Yeah.
So my time, 4:30, which was 6 hours ago. So I'm good.
But you're still
job.
more
I'm good.
baller than me. I will not drink whiskey. Like, can't do it. I'm just not.
Technically, that one was a bourbon. I learned.
Definitely
so if it's from
can't.
Kentucky,
Definitely
it's
can't do
bourbon.
that. Like, that's
But
why,
I
that's why
like
you're a baller.
Educate me.
I said I
Yeah.
envy the people who can, though. It's strong. It's
So do I,
it's
'cause
for
I can't.
strong people.
I don't know who we're talking about, but it sure ain't me.
It's ever since she lost her taste because of COVID. She just
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't lose my feeling, though. Like, I can still feel how shitty it is. I'm just kidding. No, I don't feel anything. I wasn't even, this is like the smallest little glass of wine. I was like, you know what? It's the evening time. I'm assuming you're going to have a little drinky in your hand, and Diane's here, so it's a special occasion. And also, what episode are we on? Like 14, 13?
I know.
I am 13-0 on drinking on the podcast. Had to keep up my track record.
Can't break your streak.
I'm winning.
Don't break
I
the
am winning
streak.
in life. But yeah, I just wanted to know what you guys are drinking. Also, Heather, I guess you can do your thing again.
We're ready. We're ready to get into this mom topic of
Yes.
feeding your baby. If you have ever been a mom of a newborn or like young baby, you know that feeding is just like it's on your mind 24/7 all day every day, because that baby eats 24/7 all day every day. And this is so true for like breastfeeding and formula feeding and just everybody's different paths. And we always hear a lot about people's breastfeeding journeys, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, the pros, the cons, everything like that. And I feel like a lot of women, and we got it as a comment in our first episode, listeners straight up said, like, you know, one of the things that hits you hard is if you're not breastfeeding, right? And because I think that there's this push for women to breastfeed, which wasn't always the case. Breastfeeding rates have changed and over the years. So I just really wanted to make sure that our listeners heard all the perspectives, the breastfeeding journeys and the formula feeding. And so Diane has always been, like, in my mind, like the perfect example of like someone who knew what they wanted to do and it wasn't breastfeeding, and you know, she had her plan, she stuck to it. And so I'm really excited, Diane, to have you here and for us to talk about it.
I was telling my sister about this, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about formula feeding, and she was like, oh, get ready for the mom judges, and I was like,
oh yeah,
whatever,
bring it on.
Bring it
Don't
on.
care.
Honestly, though, we had a lot of people. Rachel just sent me all the like screenshots and stuff. We had a lot of people who said, like, you know, started with this, after a month switched to formula, supplemented this, that, the other. I mean, I obviously supplemented with formula, like Rachel. So, I mean, it's like they can bring it on if they want to hate. They can hate on all of us because.
Yeah, I think mine's a little different because I formula fed from the get-go, so.
But
which is perfectly fine.
Usually you hear that.
I think it makes perfect sense, and you have your reasons, and we'll get into them. But with that being said, we mentioned on our last episode, however you feed your baby, we support it as long as it's healthy for you and healthy for the baby. And we just want to make sure that all of our listeners know that we know postpartum is freaking hard enough, and breastfeeding, not easy. And I think there may be some moms out there that it comes naturally to, but every single mom I've ever talked to, it took work. It took practice. It took, you know, a lot of effort to make that work. We know that there's a lot of different journeys and a lot of different paths. So today we want to talk about both. So we have stories about breastfeeding. Rachel and I can share some of our pros, some of our cons, and then we have Diane here to give us her scoop on formula feeding. So before we get into some of the pros and cons of breastfeeding, I thought it would be really good to share Ashley's story. The way that she writes it and the way that she explains her journey is just really good and totally explains kind of how we feel about it. This is from Ashley. Thank you, Ashley. I had a lactation consultant come to my house the second day home from the hospital. I don't know if many women realize, but insurance often covers this type of help. She was magical. I called her Mary Poppins because she had an English accent and came in with her big suitcase full of things to help me. She saved my breastfeeding journey. I wanted to give up, and she helped me so much. She made me feel comfortable and supported. I hired her again when I had my son. Her real name was Alice, but she will always be Mary Poppins to me. Breastfeeding as a working mom is the worst. I had to pump in the bathroom, which is illegal, by the way, just as an FYI, but she says I had to pump in the bathroom and it was depressing. I brought headphones to try and help my mood, but my supply dwindled so quickly with my first kid. I actually left bruises on my boobs from trying to squeeze and push them to get the milk out. After a few months, I finally had to supplement formula. Oh man, did I feel like a failure. It took my village of moms. Yeah, moms, that's what we're here for.
You are not a failure.
You are not a failure. To remind me that hurting myself was not helping my baby at all, and that I wasn't failing because I did everything I could, and as long as she was fed, she was fine. We're putting that on a shirt. She was fed, she was fine. Thankfully, I didn't beat myself up as much with baby number 2, but yeah, pumping and working is not great, especially when you don't feel supported in the workplace by it, 100%. I was the first employee ever that my company had in this situation, which is crazy to me. So now I manage the office, and when a girl had a kid, I set her up a nice decorated safe space for pumping. Good job, Ashley. More employers should do that and try to encourage mamas and support them. But fed is best, and I now preach that to any friend with a baby. I never want to see them hurt their body just to push themselves. Fed is best. 100% Ashley.
Yes.
Thank you so freaking much for that story, because it's so true. Everything you said, 100%. With my first baby, I was pumping at work, and in this literal document closet,
like a janitor's closet,
I was in a closet, and I mean, luckily it had a lock on the door, but I'd have to be like, hey, kick rocks, I gotta be in here, and I put my sign up saying don't enter, but I'm sitting there by myself in this little like corner of a closet, and I was using a manual pump because it wasn't like there was an outlet in this closet. It's not ideal. Wow. But Rachel, you have a really good breastfeeding and being a working mom story.
So, my ex-husband, his mom, my favorite human, so when I had my daughter, I was working in the schools, and I was a paraeducator, and they were wonderful to me. They gave me a room. We had like 2 classrooms that were conjoined, and there was like it was like the teacher's kind of working space, but it was my breastfeeding space or pumping space too. So I would go in there and I would pump, and luckily I had all the milk in the world. I was just I could supply everyone's kids. They were working. So I would go in there and I would pump constantly. I had a little mini fridge in there that was just for my stuff, and then I would take it home with me. But every single Friday, my mother-in-law, she was off work. So she would bring my daughter to me on those Fridays. They would let her come in, and I would be able to feed her in the room as well. And then she would kind of hang out for a little bit before she would go. But I was telling Heather, it was really funny because every single time that she would come, she would bring me a coffee. She would bring me Starbucks, and she would not let me touch it until after I fed kids. She's like, no. This kid's already crazy enough. You don't get that coffee, but you feed her. And then you could have it later, so it was very cute. Sweet. She would come and bring her on my lunch, and I'd be able to feed her to not have to pump for once during the week, which was very nice. But that was awesome. So I was very appreciative of that. It was very cool. And luckily, like I said, which I'll get into later, but I was fortunate I wasn't in a closet. So
the nice thing about that is, I mean, you were working in a school, so they were probably more used to new moms coming back to work, so like they were prepared for that kind of thing. Right. But when I was at work and I came back, there had been another woman. She had a baby about a year before I did, and she just said, I just stopped breastfeeding because I was too scared to ask anybody at work how I could pump or how I could do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how sad that you're in a workplace that you felt like you couldn't even go to your supervisor because
you could come to me.
Yeah,
you could come and ask me, because I'll talk to your supervisor for you.
And 100%,
if you need me, I'm here.
Yes, because and we will throw because it's the law that they have to provide you that space, and that's not a freaking bathroom, and the time to do that. So, and we have another really interesting breastfeeding story too, Rachel, from Joel's cousin. And I think like that one also, it really just gets into some of the like how hard it is sometimes from a mom's perspective of people pushing you to breastfeed, and maybe you're not fortunate to have that supply, and it's just like how it can mentally drain you as a mom.
Yes. Thank you, Crystal, for writing it. Sorry, my bad. Gotta sing. Yeah, so she did. You're right, and here we go. So she wrote in and she said, I had Rain at a baby-friendly hospital. That meant that they pushed breastfeeding and only had formula on hand for emergencies. I struggled so much with it, and the nurses kept pushing me to breastfeed. What they didn't teach me is that if nothing is coming out, what can happen? Apparently, I was hardly producing anything, but I couldn't tell because she was on my boob, so I couldn't see it. Well, her first week home was miserable. She wouldn't stop crying. Then in a few days, she turned yellow. She had jaundice due to not pooping enough because she was hardly eating. Oh my God, I still get sad thinking about her first little week of life, and she was so hungry. She was admitted to the hospital and luckily released the next day. But had I known to pay attention to that, I would have formula fed her earlier or supplemented more. I'm not a fan of those hospitals where they don't give mom an option to formula feed. It should be a personal choice, and my baby was hurt for real. I got goosebumps.
I know. Like, what the
It is.
fuck?
It is. It's very, very sad. I mean, I feel like, obviously, as a mother, first of all, as an adult, I mean, you're in there. You get to make your choices. But as a mother, that is your child. You should be able to make that choice. Also, you're unaware of what's going on as a new mom.
Right.
You don't know. I mean, I didn't freaking know. But for her to not know that it wasn't supplying enough and you're just being forced. I mean, the baby's crying for a reason, and they're going to probably say, well, your babies cry.
Yeah.
Feed my fucking kid.
Right.
So I feel for you, Crystal. Thank you for sending that in. I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah.
Make another baby and do it again. She's adorable. I love her. Don't tell Tommy I said that. Just kidding. Yeah. So that one's hard.
It's incredibly tough. In my experiences, the nurses for sure were like, if you want formula, you let us know and we'll do the formula. And then a lactation consultant would come in and say, you gave your baby formula? How dare you? I got so many freaking lactation consultants in my face with both my first. And with my first, of course, I was like, oh my God. With my second, I wanted to be like, bitch.
Yeah.
Who are you? Like,
throw hands.
Like, don't, like, seriously, don't tell me. And because with both my babies, it's not like your boobs fill up with milk overnight and you can immediately, like, feed your baby. Like, your body has to take some time for the supply to kick in. And whether that's a couple days or a week, everybody's body is different. Yeah, that just frustrates me so bad. And I feel so bad for any woman. I mean, postpartum is already freaking hard enough. You're literally recovering from a huge bodily trauma. Your body's already not working the way that it's usually working. And then you've got people in your face telling you, like, oh, just force this on your baby. Meanwhile, they're screaming and crying and you don't know what to do. That being said, there are a lot of pros to breastfeeding. I mean, I breastfed both my kids. I mean, Evie, it was mainly pumping because that girl didn't want to latch and she would just fall asleep on my boob. And so that was tough. And anyone who's like an exclusive pumper out there, I feel for you. It's not an easy task. It's hard. But some of the pros there are pros to breastfeeding, right? Like if she wakes up in the middle of the night, I could just stick her on a boob and I don't have to wash the kitchen. But that did not happen overnight. Like that took months of practice for me to be able to just like put her on the boob and be like, okay, call it a day. And there's other pros. Obviously, like you can walk out of the house and say, I got my baby, I got my boobs. We should be good for the next couple hours, right? And so that's also a pro. What else were pros, do you think, Rachel?
Oh, I had a lot of pros. Diane's over there just laughing. You know you can talk. You know this is an open
There's a lot of us. No, I'm taking notes so I don't forget.
You can be like, oh yeah, for real. You're like, no, Rachel.
My time will come.
Yes, you're right. Oh, do you want to go? Just kidding. Drink that lacrosse. When my daughter was born, I knew that I wanted to try to breastfeed. I was really open to anything or whatever because, I didn't research shit. I got pregnant. I was dead during the pregnancy. And then it was just like, all right, I feel better now. Let's live life. So I knew I wanted to breastfeed. We'll see how it goes. And luckily, I was very, very fortunate. I was very blessed in that department because as soon as she was born, latched on immediately. The lactation nurse like grabbed my nipple and was like, here, let me, she was like, can I touch you? I'm like, yeah, she's hungry. Let's go. So, she got her on, and it just didn't stop. Luckily, like I said, I had a very, very positive breastfeeding journey for months. I had no issues. None of the cons that breastfeeding moms will talk about when it comes to the clogs in the ducts. I didn't have, she never like bit me and hurt me. I never bled. I never had any issues. So I was very fortunate, very blessed. Pros, the fact that, yeah, like you said, I could just get up, go. She was good to go. I was a working mom. So I did go back. What was it, like 6 weeks? She was 6 weeks old. I went back to work. So I was constantly pupping. I wrote it down. I had like a regimen. Is that how you say that word? I had a plan where I was insane. So I was like, I need more milk. I need more milk. Girl, I had milk, okay? So I was doing like the mother's milk tea. I was doing like these little like lactation cookie things. And I was drinking like the O'Doul's beer shit that they would say.
Really?
And I swear, oh yeah. And so I was just producing. But one of the cons with that is because I was so full constantly, I had to pump constantly too, and it hurt. So that was like the only negative, is that it hurt. And I worked in a very physically demanding position at that time, and I work with special needs, and the kids would like bump into me, or I'd have to like help with the children, and they would like accidentally like turn and like hit my boob, and I just want to stiff arm them because I'm like, oh hell no, that hurt. Like I would never. Allegedly wanted to stiff arm. Yeah, so I'm like, other than that, everything was awesome. And then I think I breastfed, it was like a little over 6 months. But I had enough in my freezer. I had that like crazy. I had so much left over that she still had milk for a very long time too. So eventually she was introduced to formula like later down the road, which she took on to fine. Yeah. That girl just likes to eat. She's me. She's mini me. So she was fine. She's just like, give it to me. That's another taste. That's great. Wonderful. I love it. She's great. Yeah. She's fine. I didn't want to stop breastfeeding. I actually had to stop because of my mental state. So I had really bad anxiety since I was born. I was born with it. Maybe. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to make a joke. But I also have like a neurological disorder and like tremors. So they wanted me to go back on my medicine because my anxiety was so bad. So they had to kind of talk me into it, but also we had to come to like a mutual agreement. So they had like tried, I want to say they tried talking me into it like earlier. And I was like, no, I'm going to feed her a little longer. So finally at like 6 months, I decided, all right, your time's up. Get off my boob. There's enough milk here for you for a little bit longer. When do we introduce solids? Like, are you ready? I don't even remember.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah, so
I was going to say, that's a whole other episode, right? For sure.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. But I think that's pretty much mine, which, like I said, just very, very lucky. Because I know so many people that have struggled or had issues, and I was lucky. Yeah. And let me tell you, I was also that mom that, I just fed her.
Since you produced a lot, and you said she was able to eat after you were done breastfeeding, were you able to use up all your breast milk, or did any go to waste?
Actually.
Lucky.
No, I did. I forget how long, because if it's frozen, what does it stay? Like, it's 90 days?
They say, 6 months, and then if it's like in a really good freezer, they say it's okay up to a year. So
perfect. Yeah. How do you know if you have a really good freezer?
I think they mean like a deep freezer.
Or if you don't leave it open.
Like if you half of my breast milk is in a freezer that I don't. Like, I put breast milk in there in batches, and then I don't open it and close it like you do with your normal freezer. And so the temperature in there stays more stable, which I think is what they're mainly saying is, like, make sure it's not, like, going up, the temperature isn't going up and down. Like, because every time you open your freezer on your fridge, obviously, like, the temperature changes, and it can I don't know, do something to the milk. I don't know.
Yeah, we did. We used it all up, and later, like down the road, I had like seen someone that like donated their breast milk, and I was like, oh my god, I could have gave away so much.
Yeah,
I could have kept pumping.
Yeah,
but I did not. So yeah, she used it.
It was so funny when you were saying that you were fortunate because you didn't have this. I had all of that. Like my breastfeeding journey was all of that. Like Evie didn't latch. So I was pumping in the hospital. They gave me like a hospital-grade pump to try to pump because she wouldn't latch. She would like get on my boob and then just like fall asleep. But my milk didn't come in until, I mean, probably at least 5-6 days later. And so we were using formula in the hospital and continued using it for a couple weeks until my boobs were producing enough milk that, you know, would get her through the day. You know, I was mainly pumping with her, so it sucked because I felt like you spent this time attached to a machine when you could be spending time with your freaking baby.
Yeah.
So it sucked. I mean, Tempe, she was different. She latched on great, and she wanted to stay on, but because that girl wanted to stay on 24/7, my nipples died. They were dead. I was like, what are you doing to my boobs? And I still supplemented because no matter what, she could stay on my nipple 24/7 the minute she got off. And I think it was the same thing, kind of like what Crystal was saying. I didn't know whether or not she was getting milk because she was on my boob. So after like the second night, she would not stop crying. And we were in the hospital and Zach goes, I think we just need to ask for formula. And rang the nurse. I said, can we get some formula? And she said, yeah. Which one you want, like Similac or Enfamil? And I said, whatever, just bring us some. And she was like, here you go. And it was so, I was so happy she didn't even blink. That nurse didn't even blink when I said, I need formula because I'm dying. And so,
support.
Yeah, 100%, totally supportive. And it was like, that was a great thing. And then the next day, of course, I get a lactation consultant who comes in and says, you gave her formula? Oh, you know that's just going to ruin all of your, and I was like, I haven't slept in 48 hours. Get out of my face. Like, what are you doing? Like, it was horrible. But I had all the issues. I had clogs with Evie because pumping is not ideal. I had to pump at work with Evie. That sucked. Tempe, like, chapped my nipples raw. I had every single issue I probably had. But I had a goal to do it. And like you said, I'm also fortunate that once my milk came in, then I stopped supplementing and I have a stash and it's great. But it's, it wasn't an easy road to get there, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, good job.
Well, I was going to say something that I thought about that people probably need to hear if they're a new mom and they haven't gone through this and you do want to try to breastfeed is one of the things, actually, I had forgot about this because the rest of it was so good. But apparently I had like inverted nipples after she was born.
I remember that.
So yeah, you
because when I saw you had that nipple shield thing, right? I remember, yeah.
So they had to give me, or they gave me this like little clear, I don't know, it looked like a boob, where you put it on and then you had to like pump it and it would like draw my nipple out. It was so weird. That was the only thing that really was hard in the beginning, is because when I wasn't with the lactation consultant, or like when I didn't know what was going on, she was trying to get in. I'm like, okay, switch from my right boob to my left boob. I don't know. Do you want to feed here? Do you want to feed here? Like, which one do you want? You want to make up your mind? I'm already mad at you. You're 6 weeks or 6 weeks, 6 minutes old. But no, so she had brought that in. That worked. That worked for me. I had to use that for a while until finally, I guess she just sucked that shit back.
I was going to say, did they eventually just like pop out, or did she just get better?
My nipples are fine now.
Popping them out.
They're normal. They're back. Here I got nips. For anyone wondering about my boobs.
Okay, so when I had Evie, this was one of the lactation consultants that came in to see me. She gave me one of those things, but then the next lactation consultant, because I saw two, the next lactation consultant who came in the next day was like, oh, I don't recommend those. And I'm like, you guys need to make up your minds here, yes or no. Right. And one of them, I can't remember which one, asked me, she asked me, like, what are you? And I was like, what What?
A mom. I'm a mom.
And I was like, my dad is white and my mom is Filipino. And she goes, you have those Filipino nipples. What the fuck is a Filipino nipple?
I'm like, show us right now on the podcast.
And
Whip them out. I gotta see.
She said something about, like, Filipino nipples are...
Dense.
Did I tell you about this? Yeah, she told me something, and I was like, I did tell you about this. She told me my nipples were dense.
You didn't tell me. What the hell?
And I was just like, what is this? And the whole time you're a new mom in a hospital who's just have a baby, you don't super process the things people are saying to you. I remember thinking about it a little later, and then me replaying in my brain, wait, she told me my nipples were dense? What the fuck does that even mean? Like,
I'm like,
is this?
Touching my boobs, like, are mine?
What's a dense nipple?
Can she check me? I want to know.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, I have experienced some really, really supportive lactation consultants because I had babies at Kaiser both times. And so they'll send you to lactation consultants. Lactation consultants will come to your room. I'm pretty sure at this point I've seen 6 different lactation consultants between the 2 of my kids. And they all have something different to say. But that's another thing to be aware of. You're going to be in this really weird postpartum fog when you're in the hospital. So when someone tells you have dense nipples, don't take it personally.
They're just trying to help?
I don't know what that even meant. I was like, what am I supposed to do about dense nipples? Breastfeeding is hard. Even people like Rachel, who had a very fortunate experience. Like, there's still struggles, 100%. And we hear about those breastfeeding journey struggles and a lot. I mean, if you are pregnant, it's almost always a question that gets asked of you. Are you planning on breastfeeding? Whether they're even a medical provider that has any business asking you that question, people ask you that question. And we hear a lot about women's breastfeeding journeys and, you know, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think we hear a lot about people's formula feeding is a journey too. And I think it's one that should be shared. So that's why we have Diane to kind of share with us some of the pros and cons. So a couple of the super awesome things about Diane. One, our anniversary for friendship is July 4th. That was the first time that we ever hung out and drank together. Shout out, 2nd Street.
Yeah, so
We've been friends for a really long time. Every July 4th.
We text each other, happy friendiversary, how many years?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's
cute.
Great.
You guys are cute.
Oh, we try.
What year was that?
You were 21.
Yes.
So
It
2011.
was 2011. Yes.
How old were you?
23. So much older.
So much older.
I know.
We were roommates. We've been in each other's weddings. We've been there through all of our children. And Diane has just a very different story than a lot of the other moms I know when it comes to how she decided to feed her baby. So, Diane, thank you for being here. We actually told your birth story, but so update us. Tell us, how is being a mom?
I freaking love it. I feel like I've been waiting for this my whole life. I have a little boy. He's almost 2. He's teething right now, so he's not feeling very well. I don't know. I feel like I did a lot of reading, but I was always very like, you're going to choose what you want to do or just go with the flow. And it's just kind of worked with us, which really helps because me and my husband are like 100% different, and it works. But I love my little boy. I hope to have a million more just like him. And
more!
Yes.
Maybe like one more. But it's just my favorite thing.
Henry is the coolest kid.
That's the best.
He is.
He's a cutie.
And he's fearless. To see this little guy just like head first down slides, and he's awesome. I love him. He's great.
Aww.
So, like we said, so you chose to formula feed. Kind of walk us through that decision.
Yeah, so basically the opposite of all the stories you just told. I I don't know. It was just something I decided years before I got pregnant. I don't know if I was just like sitting on my ass one day and was thinking about feeding my future baby. But it was already like set in stone that I was not going to breastfeed. So some of those reasons were being a first time mom is hard. I had no idea what to expect. And I didn't want things to go like a certain way, but have planned for it another way and let myself down. I just wanted to make things as easy as possible for myself and my sanity. I knew my baby was going to be fed either way. I'll say like it was more selfish. It was all for me why I chose not to. I didn't want to feel like...
To interrupt you really quick, it's not selfish as a mother to put yourself first, because there's no way that you can be a good mom, especially to a baby who relies on you if you're not okay, right? So, for sure. Like, I get where you're coming from, but I will have to say, I don't think it is fully selfish.
You do. You have to take care of yourself to take care of someone else.
100%.
You cannot take care of another person if you are not in the right mental headspace. And if you are trying, it's not 100%. So you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Doing the mom thing.
And I say selfish as, I just forgot the word. Not like in a bad way, like in a good way. I had a word. Yeah. Whatever. I also didn't want anyone or myself putting pressure on me. Like, what if I couldn't produce? What if my baby didn't latch? I would have been devastated for something to happen out of my control. I also used to have panic attacks and anxiety. I have heard women who have breastfed, like they don't know that, like, nothing's coming out, or, and it just contributes to the anxiety, and I didn't want that. I was just nervous that breastfeeding would be all-consuming and just, like, trigger new anxiety spells. Just wanted to prepare myself. And I was scared for all the owies. I didn't want to get mastitis. I've heard horror stories. Bloody, cracked nipples, biting. Yep. My body had already been through it, so I wanted to enjoy, like, the early stages. I also wanted to give other people the chance to feed my son, give myself a break. I remember the first time my stepmom met the baby, it was Thanksgiving, and my husband asked her, like, do you want to feed Henry? And she was like, oh, can I? Like, she was so excited to feed him. So it was really nice, like, sharing it with other people.
For sure.
And then I just didn't want it to take up my time. We're already sleepy. You are on that, like, every 2 hours, every 3 hours, you have to wake up in the middle of the night, and I just wanted it to be as quick as possible and enjoy my baby in a different way. So those were my reasons. There are a lot of reasons, and I'm glad
they're all valid reasons.
100%.
They're all valid reasons.
Everything you said, I'm like, yeah, because that part sucked about about breastfeeding, for sure. So I love that you were, like you said, you knew, like, you were sure in your decision. But obviously, because I know you and because I was around, everyone has something to say. Even people who are not moms and who have not even been through that. Even people who are not women sometimes have something to say about how you're planning on feeding your baby. Like, get the hell out. No boobs, no opinion. No, what are they called? Mammary glands? No opinion. But what were some of the people's reactions or opinions to that decision? Was it supportive? Was it not supportive? And I kind of want you to mention specifically Philip's reaction, because I think, if I remember right, he basically was like, hey, it's your boobs. You do what you want with them.
I'm sure he said that. I don't remember specifically, but he didn't have anything to say. He was just like, you do you. I don't really care. I'm here to help.
I love it.
So nice. Reactions. For the most part, supportive. I feel like a lot of, like, our mothers and aunts and like the older generation, I didn't know a lot of them that breastfed. Like, my mother-in-law said that with her first two, she was given, like, shots or medication to dry up her breast milk because she knew she didn't want to breastfeed. But with the third one, they stopped doing that, and she had to like, dry up herself, and it was painful.
Cabbage titties.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I had a lot of people that were like, oh, I didn't. Like, it was no big deal. So I really only got a couple of comments. I think when I had said I wasn't breastfeeding, I had someone tell me, one of my friends said, like, well, why not? It'll be easy. Just look at your boobs. For those of you who cannot see me, but, like, I have big boobs. And just because I had big boobs doesn't mean it was going to be a solid breastfeeding journey if I tried. I appreciate her optimism, but you don't know. So that was one.
I have to say, obviously, I mean, Diane, you and I have been friends for a long time. I know you have very big boobs. You know I have very small boobs. My breastfeeding journeys have been decent. Luckily, boob size has nothing to do with it, because otherwise I would have been screwed.
Yeah.
One of my boobs is a D, the other one is a B, so, it doesn't matter. All of them are different.
You're like, just one.
Just kidding.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So that was kind of, like, funny and not funny. And then I had someone else say, like, well, you don't want to at least try? And no, like, why do you care?
Right.
So those were really the only two comments I got from people that were, like, closer to me. And then I did have a doctor and a nurse. Oh, okay. So I gave birth. I was pregnant in 2020 during the pandemic, so I didn't have the same doctor for any of my appointments. It was always somebody new. And every time they did ask if I was planning on breastfeeding, probably because they wanted to educate me. But when I told this particular doctor no, she almost seemed offended. And she said, like, you're not going to? Why not? And I just, like, I have my reasons. Like, I stuck to it. And
good for
it's
you.
the best thing for your baby. And I was like, I'm sure my baby will be just fine.
My baby will
but you'll lose weight.
What the hell?
I don't care. I do not care about losing weight. And that's not true, too. Some women, like, yeah, it sucks, like, all the fat out of them, like, snap back, whatever. But other women, like, I heard when you're breastfeeding, you're ravenous. You're eating.
Oh,
you're
my
making
God.
up those calories.
Yes.
So you can gain weight. And I would have been the one to gain weight. I know. But so what? So that was the doctor. And then I had a postpartum nurse. So right after I had Henry, I was in the hospital, and there was a nurse that had to show me how to express milk from my boobs. I mean, I get it. I told her, like, I'm not breastfeeding. She's like, I have to show you. But even, like,
That
Philip, my
seems
husband,
weird.
he snapped at her, and he's like, we've told everybody multiple times she isn't breastfeeding. Stop. And she still, like, insisted. And even, like, that little spoonful that I expressed, she was like, you should really think about it, because look at that. That's gold.
Yeah, like pushing
Thanks
it on
for
you.
nothing.
You're like, my decision was made.
Yeah.
My decision was made, and you're here to support me. You
Right.
can tell me once. You can tell me once what you think. But if I tell you no and that this is what I'm doing, you don't tell me twice.
Drop it. Yeah.
That's how I see it. Is if you want to say what your job entails you to do, and then I tell you what my job as a mother is to do, you shut your face.
Yep.
So
100%.
And
I love hearing
And I
that
really
Philip.
appreciated Philip.
Yes, that's just what I was going to say. I mean, Philip is probably one of the best advocates to ever have if you're ever in a setting where you're in a hospital and you've got people around.
That's what she was telling me.
So like, that's awesome, and I love how supportive he was, and it's awesome when your partner is in your corner. And we talked about this a few episodes back, but for sure, like, if you have a decision and you know what you want and it's something, make sure your partner knows, because in that postpartum freaking phase, things are harder for you to explain and to stick up for yourself and to say things that you want and things that you don't, but your partner can be that voice for you. So I love that he was there and he told that nurse what's up.
Yes. Woo!
Yeah.
I love it.
People who do not know me, I'm soft-spoken, I'm very nice and polite, and my husband is not either any of those things. He's very...
Tell him what's up.
He says what's on his mind.
Yes.
Like, he'll be mean for you when you don't want to be. And I shouldn't say mean. Like, he's not mean. It's his
He's
tone.
just assertive.
He's assertive.
He's telling someone it's blunt, it's straightforward, that needs to happen in certain situations. So I'm happy that you had that, because it is hard, and sometimes, like you said, sometimes you don't feel comfortable in that moment to say something. So it's amazing to have someone who's right there like, no, I already know what page she's on because I wrote it. She wrote it, but I'm reading
We
it.
co-wrote it.
So let's go.
Yeah.
I love
I'll
that.
let you know.
I love that.
Good.
A few episodes ago, one of our listeners actually wrote in about what she did to help dry up her breast milk. And we did not know this, but there is a cabbage cream, actually. I think she said you can get it on Amazon to help dry up your milk. And like you said, there used to be shots. There used to be this. Diane's like, let me Google this.
I'm going to Google it.
But yeah, she said there's a cabbage cream. You put the cream, and then you put the cabbage, and then you wear the sports bra. But what were your tricks? Like, how did you? I remember us texting about it, and I feel like I told you. For me, if I drink peppermint tea, like I feel like my supply drops. But like, so what worked for you?
Well, first, this listener who wrote in with the cabbage cream, was she trying to dry up after breastfeeding or after birth?
So this listener is one of my loves of my life, Crystal.
Oh.
She was a surrogate.
Right.
And so she wasn't doing anything.
Okay.
So she already knew that she was going to have to do that. So she had already tried looking into it. And it was funny. She said that she had put that cream on, and I don't remember the cream. I don't remember her telling me about the cream. All I remember is her sending me pictures with cabbage on her boobies, and I'm like, what are you doing with cabbage on them? And so she's like, it's drying up the milk, and she would put them under her sports bra, put it tight on there to try to help to soak it up, and I'm just over here like, no, that's gonna stink. She's like, it does. It was
Really?
it was not fun.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was stinky. I went there afterwards. She's in Tahoe. I went there and
Maybe I didn't know I stink. I didn't smell anything. Oh,
no,
wow.
you did the same thing. I heard. I didn't hear it. I smelled that cabbage. So.
Wow. Well, good for her for looking things up, because there are a lot of different tips. Yeah, and I've heard it's different too. Like if you've breastfed and then you're trying to dry it up, it's a lot harder because you're used to it, and your boobs are just like, no. So
I've done
it's
that.
not really like that if you haven't. So I don't think it took very long. Yeah, you know what? And I never even noticed my milk coming in, because apparently, like 5 or so days later, it comes in and
You didn't get brick
I didn't really
boobs.
notice.
You didn't get the brick boobs.
No. Not that I remember. No, I never really felt them coming in, but I did wake up one day and I felt like little tumors. Like they felt like tumors, which I'm assuming were like the milk ducts.
Yeah.
So when I got those, I was like, I guess my milk came in, and they weren't very uncomfortable. Maybe just felt like little bruises. So I would just massage them until they were soft, and then I'd do it again later. Oh, I also did express a little bit of colostrum, maybe once or twice a day in those first few days, which I later realized you're only supposed to express to get relief if you're in pain, and I was never in pain. So when I thought about it, I was like, you should probably leave your boobs alone. You're probably stimulating more. But for a couple of days, I did express the colostrum, and whatever I did have, I gave to my son, because I was like, you know what? It's good for him. Why not? So I'm actually really happy that I did that. But the tricks and stuff for getting rid of the milk, I would put ice packs in my bra. You know those padsicles that they're like ice packs for your vagina
Yeah.
after you give birth?
Yeah.
So Rachel, it's like a giant pad that has an ice pack inside of it, and you break it up and it gets cold, and you put it in your underwear, and it's cooling down there.
That's crazy.
It's very.
I had a C-section. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
It's
Oh my
very
gosh!
nice.
I have never heard that before in my life.
Yeah,
But
padsicles.
Wow. They're
Yeah,
awesome.
so
Padsicles.
I
All
bought.
right, I gotta have another kid. Just kidding. Not for that.
I had a million of them, and they were too heavy.
Kids or padsicles?
Padsicles. I stocked up on the postpartum items, because I was I thought it was going to be really, really bad. So I didn't really use the padsicles, so I would cut them open and just take the ice pack out, and they were the perfect size for my bra. So I would just put them in there.
That's awesome. Yeah, good.
And then I did do the cabbage, so I just had a head of cabbage in the refrigerator, and I would kind of like break them up and rinse them off. And it was nice. Like, they were like nice and cold. I didn't notice a smell. It just smelled like regular cabbage, but not stinky cabbage. I hope I didn't smell.
Maybe I was just being judgy. I was probably just being
You're
judgy.
like, lady.
Well,
I was like, you got wet in your bra?
maybe because Henry was born in winter when maybe it wasn't like hot, and so you know, maybe your cabbage didn't smell.
May.
Yeah,
May,
Oh,
June.
boy. Maybe. Yeah, everything in there was like nice and cold. Because I know, like, also if you
Sweaty
take a warm
cabbage.
shower, like if you take a warm shower, it's supposed to help your milk come out. So you do the opposite and you do cold. And then I would wrap my chest up like in like a really like a tight sports bra, but I also had a belly band that I would. Yeah, and then they also have a no more milk tea that I would drink like once or twice a day. And I'd say that like I did all of that loosely, consistently for like 2 weeks. I did still leak for a little while afterwards. I want to say even like a year later, I was like, am I leaking? But it dried up really quick.
Thank you for sharing, because I'm sure when you do start to wean, right, like you said, it's probably harder if your boobs have been doing this for several months. So those are good to know for any of you moms, too, who even if you did breastfeed, now you know, like, you can get a cabbage boob to help wean off.
Cabbage boobies.
I heard you can also take Sudafed, and it's supposed to help dry it up. But I was
heard that
nervous
too.
to take medicine.
Right, yeah.
You probably sleep a lot, so it depends on if you got to work.
Yeah.
What was your typical routine for the feedings? Because now, like you kind of said before, one of the pros of knowing you want to do formula was other people. We talked about this on one of our earlier episodes, but like ask for help, be there to help. Like people want to help, and if this is what you need someone to feed your baby. That's not something you can always do if you're doing breastfeeding, especially if you're not pumping in the early days. That's all you. Like there's not like nobody else can really feed that baby. So what was your kind of routine? How did you get other people to help, and kind of what did you work out to do those round the clock feedings? And was there any items that you like were like, oh yes, if you are gonna use formula, you need to get this bottle or this bottle warmer or this whatever?
As far as like having people help, I mean, I liked feeding him. Me and my husband would just kind of switch off, but we also lived with his parents. So we just send him downstairs to spend time with them, and if it was time to eat, then they fed him. Yeah, it was just like, who's available? Which we all were. But as far as like the schedule or routine, you just remember like every 2 hours or 3 hours, or like if my baby was giving me hungry cues, we had to start really small, like that first like day or two, like it's like this much, and then it goes up and up every day. Yeah, and then you just kind of get the hang of it. You can start telling when they're hungry or when they're not hungry. I mean, and we didn't really remember every 2 or 3 hours, but we wrote everything down. So we did like what time we ate, poop diaper, pee diaper, because they also ask you when you go to the doctor.
At the hospital.
So we need to keep track. What helped too is my husband was working overnight when he was first born. So overnight, I would just set an alarm and sleep in between like each feeding overnight. I had read, like, after you feed your baby, you shouldn't lay them down because they can, like, spit up and maybe choke. So, I would prop him up on his boppy for, like, 45 minutes. And then I would lay him back down, and then I would go to sleep with him until it was time to wake up again. So it was almost like, if it was a 2-hour period, I'd probably, like, wake us up, feed him for, like, 15 minutes, prop him up for 45 minutes, and then we both go to sleep for that next hour. So it was like a nice like hour off and on for a good like, I don't know, like 10 p.m. to like 6 or 7. So that's like half a night's sleep broken up. And once my husband got home in the morning, he would take over, and then I would sleep for like a good 3 hours or so. So I felt like I had a full night's sleep. Yeah, so that worked. That was pretty solid.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. But I remember, like, I know, like, until they make their weight back up, because they lose weight when they're, like, the first few
Right,
days.
right.
So when they make their weight back up, you don't have to wake them anymore.
Right,
something like
right.
that. Or it's when they double their weight, something like that. But I was still like, hey, it's time to get up. Like, I always had to wake him up. So I, eventually, when the doctor told me that, I was like, oh, maybe I'll wait for him to cry. And he was always just like, I don't know, really
Chill.
good.
The chill kid.
that
He was content. He was happy. You were happy. It was good.
Yep. You guys had a good routine. You
Right.
figured out what worked well for you, what worked well for him, what worked well for Philip, which is so awesome because for me, I feel like
Don't cry.
every time I would be like, oh, we finally got the hang of this. This worked 2 nights in a row. Then something would change, or, you know, this would happen or that would happen. And then boom, like now I'm starting back over. And, you know, it was really hard. I remember, so I would try to pump as much as I could during the day so that come 9 o'clock, I would pump. I would try to go to sleep, and Zach would give her a bottle of whatever I could have pumped during that day. And then I would only get 2 hours, and then I'd have to wake up at midnight, pump again, because you're having to do it every 3 hours. And Evie wasn't latching, so I was just pump again, and then try to make sure I could pump before I knew she was going to wake up. And that, like, you don't know. And Zach's like, dead asleep. This guy didn't wake up for anything. So I'm sitting there pumping, looking into the bassinet going, please don't wake up, please don't wake up, please don't wake up. Because then I knew as soon as I got done pumping, I would need to run, put it in a bottle, and then I would need to give her that bottle. As soon as I was done giving her that bottle, like you said, same thing, like keep her propped up for a little while, get her back down to sleep, and then go wash my pump parts. And then I'm like, try to get back to sleep before 3 o'clock when she has to do it again. Like it was horrible. and I never knew when she was gonna wake up. Like, was she gonna wake up while I was pumping, before I was pumping, after I was pumping? Like, I never knew. So, like, yeah, routine wasn't in my cards. That was one of the things that you had said was a pro. Like, you wanted other people to help, you wanted to have a routine, there was things like you wanted to make sure and that was definitely not something that I had in my journey that I could count on, was that routine.
I definitely sympathize with you, and I almost, like, feel guilty. But,
No.
But no, like, you wanted to do it, and you stuck with it, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
your babies
Yeah.
are perfect, so...
But so is yours. That's
We're all
I
great.
think that's the whole. Yeah, we're all great. But then sometimes I do look back and I think like, man, like what was the I could have just like and we did in those early days, even if because there was a lot of times where I would pump a whole day and get like barely any milk. So we were still supplementing with formula. Like it was what it was, and you know that only lasted a few weeks. But those first few weeks feel like forever in the early days. You know what I mean? So it's hard.
No, that is hard. So with you talking about how sometimes you don't get what you want, obviously, when you're pumping and you're trying and you don't understand and you're like, how could I spend so much time and I'm trying and mentally I'm putting all of this, why is it not happening? You know, luckily, like I said, I did not have that problem. So I feel for anyone who does and anyone who's trying because, you know, Diane, you made your decision. Heather, you made your decision. I made my decision. And hopefully we're making our decisions on our own without the influence of a bunch of other people because
from other people.
They really don't matter.
Nope.
Honestly. So anyways, sorry anyone else. But the point is what I was about to say when you were saying that when it comes to what you were getting. I remember specifically just this time that my shaking like is really bad in the mornings. It's the worst, like when I first wake up. And I remember pumping, and this was like early on when I had just started pumping. And I remember pumping, and I had like filled one of the little bottles and bottles, whatever, the little bags.
No.
Yeah. And I went to get it, and I had like a tremor attack, and I knocked the whole thing off. And I swear I wanted to punch holes in walls. I wanted to flip tables. I wanted everything because I was so mad because I'm like, I'm just sitting here doing my best. Like, I'm doing my best and this has to happen. Like, I'm just trying so hard. You know, it was so frustrating. Luckily, that did not happen very often. It did happen more than once, but not very often in the amount that you feed a child, obviously. But yeah, like it's hard when you're not getting enough, or you feel like you just keep trying, and it's like, what the hell is happening right now?
I'm doing my best. Like, work with me, universe. Like, what is going on?
Universe. Where are the cards? Lay them out. Yeah. We are a team.
For sure.
But yeah, that just made me think of that.
For sure. The other thing, so Diane, what other, what bottles did you use since you were formula feeding? What was one of, like, are there any products that you would recommend?
Yes.
Do it, girl.
Bottles, let's see. I registered for those, like, bulky Como-Tomo ones because they were cute. So I had those. I also got the
and then
Dr.
you got Dr. Brown's.
And then I got Dr. Brown's.
Yeah.
Well, I had them at the same time. So I read that Dr. Brown's were really good for gas. And then some people just gave me like little Avent like starter kits. So I had like 3 in rotation. I will say I really liked the Dr. Brown's. They were very slim, so they were easy to use or like easy to hold. Yeah, and like they have like little like straw that like pushes.
That was my favorite one.
Bubbles
that was
out.
my favorite one.
It's amazing. It was really cool,
Yeah.
and I feel like he didn't like spit up or like have crazy gas. So I love the bottles, but there are a lot of parts to clean. So that was the one con of those, but it was well worth it. The Avent bottles, I really like those too. I mostly had like the little 4-ounce ones, so those were perfect for traveling. They're really easy to clean, but for traveling, you could just like dump the formula in, but even like when you're done and if you're on the road, you could just pour some water in and like shake it out and it's clean. Those were really easy. And then the Como-Tomo, they were okay. I think they were just too bulky, and when you are holding a baby, you use your hands a lot. So having that bulky bottle, it hurt my hands. But those were the easiest to clean because they were like wide open. So I'd say they were all like pretty even. But products, I had a baby Breeza, which is like a Keurig for formula.
Yeah,
and
I've heard
it was
lots of
amazing.
good things about that.
You
Michael and Laura have that. Yeah.
It's I didn't know it existed. We had my husband's cousin had one, and she didn't need it anymore, so she just gave it to us. But it's basically, there's like a tank of water, and then you put your formula in, you turn it on, and it mixes them perfectly, so there's no like chunks or hardly any bubbles, and it's at the perfect temperature. So it was
amazing. That you called it a Keurig for formula. That's the best explanation.
Well, it was, and it sat right next to my Keurig, so I could do 2 at the same time.
Nice.
You get a bottle, I get a bottle.
Yes. And it makes this little noise, like when it's starting like a Keurig, like when it's dripping. And Henry would know when a bottle was being made, and he'd be in his little boppy, like, like ready for his bottle. And then we eventually turned it into a dance, and he loved it.
That's so cute.
But we would also have like a larger jug, just like a pitcher, because if we didn't want to do like make bottles every couple of hours, we would just do like one big jug, and it was good for like a day or so.
Nice.
So yeah, those are basically all my items, I think.
Nice.
Bottles and the baby Breeza.
Which is so funny because like I remember seeing like, oh, one of the pros of breastfeeding is you don't need products. Okay.
I have a quote that I saved. This I found on breastfeedingisabitch.com. This one says, and this is from Cassie Clark, it says, though breastfeeding is supposed to be the most natural thing ever, it seems like a rich people sport for all of the stuff we have to buy to help.
Yup. It's so true, dude.
Gotta get so many things.
It's so many things because like, so one, if your baby can latch perfectly from day one, then fine. Maybe you don't need a pump. But then, if you ever want anyone else to ever feed your baby breast milk besides you, so you can get a baby off your boob, you need a pump, okay? Pump at minimum is like 5 pieces that you're having to wash, and then count the bottle. And then I got smart and started using 2 different types of pumps, so I didn't have to wash the same pump parts over and over and over 8 times a day. And then, on top of that, you have nursing pads. You have to have 5 shirts a day because even with nursing pads, you're leaking through your shirt. Like, there's so much extra products that go into breastfeeding. I mean, maybe there are some moms out there who they just nursed the whole entire time. They didn't pump, and maybe they did. They got away with no products. But, like, I have a whole bin full of bottles, pump stuff, booby pads. And then if you're storing breast milk, like the breast milk storage bags, like so much stuff goes into it. Like so much stuff.
Room in your freezer.
I know. Right. I had to buy a whole other freezer. Like, come on, man.
Buy less steak. That's hard. It's hard to get that.
Yeah, my freezer's
Zach still
full.
hates it because we'll be walking through a store and he'll be like, ooh, we should get some frozen pizzas. I'm like, where are we going to put it?
Room.
There's no room. Sorry.
Poor Zach. His
stuff
favorite.
Back in 5 months.
His favorite.
I was say, you better just buy the frozen pizza and make it for dinner that night. Every time you grocery shop, you eat the pizza that night so that you don't have to store it. It's a win-win.
So the last thing I kind of want to ask Diane is your biggest pro, your biggest con, and then like anything you do differently.
My biggest pro, I'd say it was a time saver. He ate in like 15 minutes, and that was it.
That was amazing.
And then the con was really just having to wash bottles. So if he had 8 bottles in a day, and that's all the bottles we had, then at the 9th of feeding, we're like, oh man, I gotta wash them. And I'm the kind of person where if I'm doing the dishes, I'm doing all of them. So my husband would say, just wash one. I'm like, no, I have to wash all of them. So just washing the bottles, because like I said, like I had different ones. So like the Avent and the Comotomo were super easy, but the Dr. Brown's, like I really needed to get in there with the special brushes. That's it. Anything I would do differently? No. I completely stand for my decision. It was wonderful. I mean, honestly, there was a point when he was maybe like 4 months old where I was thinking like, maybe I should have breastfed him. Is it really better for him? And I even Googled like if I could get my milk back and like give it a try. But then I woke up the next day and I was like, no, you're fine. So there was like this one little glimpse, but still I'm very happy with the way we did things. He's a perfect little boy. My husband didn't have any, like nobody had any problems with it. I will say, like, I have been open to the idea of breastfeeding. Like, if I were to have another child, I'm probably leaning more towards still formula feeding. But I'd say, like, I would like to know what the experience is. Like how would it work for me? What difference would I see in the babies? Mm-hmm. But overall, probably not.
Yeah. Well, I love to hear it because, like, I love to hear because we hear about so many breastfeeding journeys, positive breastfeeding journeys, but also like struggles, and it's just honestly not the path for some moms. So I like being able to share, you know, the other side of it because we hear about the breastfeeding a lot, and I feel like you don't hear about, you know, the formula feeding and all of the pros that really do come with it. I mean, we obviously said it several times. Whatever's going to work best for you and the baby, fed is best. Fed's the way to go.
True that. Yes.
True that.
Feed them babies. Feed them babies.
We had a lot of people kind of write in little things about their different feeding stories. So Rachel, kick it.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So one of Joel's cousins, Catalina, I am going to read hers right now. Experience with my first was tough. I was very stressed out. Mello was a preemie, and I was told he had to eat a certain amount, and he just couldn't. He was and is always a slow eater. I felt I wasn't producing enough and got the depot shot and ended up drying up 3 months in. This time around, I told myself, because she just had another, this time around I told myself I wouldn't stress and I would do my best. I didn't have a pump the first week. The hospital didn't even offer formula. This is the same, just so you know, sisters, from the one I told you earlier about the formula thing. So I don't understand. But anyways, formula was nowhere to be found.
That's insane.
The cramps. Oh my God, the cramps were the worst every single time he latched. But I tried, and here I am 3.5 months in. I'm mostly pumping, which takes up a lot of time, but so glad he's getting all of the antibodies. Still not comfortable breastfeeding in public, but I manage. So that's from her.
That is one
Thank
thing.
You so much
Thank you for sharing, because that is one thing that we have yet to bring up. But with Tempe, I got the worst cramps. It only lasted for the first few weeks, but as soon as she would get on the boob, my whole uterus was like on freaking fire every time she was latching. Because I mean, they say like, oh, it's good, it's your uterus contracting back to da 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 da. I don't care, make it stop. Like, I've already gone through enough.
You're like, I'm done.
It's like another labor.
It sucks. It's like worse than period cramps.
Yeah, I didn't feel that either. I don't know, I was weird.
You know what it was, Rachel? Oh, this is what I think it is. It was karma, because you had the craziest pregnancy.
I agree.
With the craziest shit happening to you. So then when Kenzie finally made her entrance into the world, they were like, okay.
They said, she's been through enough.
They said,
we should let her have
exactly what it was.
You should let her have a moment. Let her enjoy something at least.
Yes.
Before she loses her shit. It's all right. We are thriving now. Now she's 7 and I can't stand her. So I love her so much. So we, if you're not following us on Instagram or Facebook, we had wrote a couple little posts asking for people to send stuff in. So we got a couple little responses. So these are quick, but I'm going to still read them because I love any of the interaction. I mean, the person who interacts the most is sitting here with us today, Diane. Yes, ma'am. But so a couple others that I want to add. I had said, did you breastfeed your baby? Was it successful? Did you struggle? Tell us. Megan, thank you. She had said that she did. She said yes times 2. So 2 babies, 20 months, both babies. 20 months, both babies. Yeah. Me oh my.
Megan is one dedicated mom.
She's a trooper.
And but there was a lot of preparation. Megan didn't do that overnight. I remember asking her about it. She had so many, she read this, she did this research, she did that research. She had to go through because she was a working mom too. She had to go through the whole pumping at work. She made goals for herself. Like, that didn't happen overnight. Megan had some really good, successful, breastfeeding tips and tricks and stuff, but it was dedication on her part for sure.
It is a lot. So another one was from Heather, who is one of Weston's best friends, Sean's wife. This one, 6 lactation consultants, lots of tears and bruising later. I switched to pumping and being happy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Feel you, girl.
I switched to pumping and being happy.
Feel you, girl.
If you are sad, if you are struggling, if you are feeling it, your baby feels that. 100%. What you are feeling, your child is feeling.
Yes.
You have to bring them into a peaceful, a happy, a stress-free environment. I'm so excited. I can't even speak words. So it's like, you know what I mean? So sure. I just love that she said, I switched to pumping and being happy.
100%.
Yes. She's a little cutie too. I love little kids. They're so cute. Their little faces.
You're so aggressive.
Their little faces. You know what I just thought of was, Heather, so was it your baby shower? I don't know. Diane, when did we have the little blow up thing in the back of Heather's yacht?
That was
Evie's
or her mom.
Evie's
second birthday party.
So I remember Kinsey being up there, and then Henry, just the little balls. There was balls, and they were all in there, and I'm just like, everyone be careful, everyone.
And Henry's like,
that was when he had
crazy.
That's when he had fell, and he had a cut, and then a double black eye, and I was we hadn't really been anywhere, so I was like, oh no, people are gonna think I beat my baby. But everyone who was Megan said,
yeah, those
bruises will go away and he'll get another one. And yeah.
Okay, couple more. So Kiki, she wrote in and she said she's going on 7 months, hard work and dedication.
For sure.
Another one that's just successful. She knew what she wanted. She's doing it. Get it, girl.
I
Love
actually,
it. Woo woo.
Kiara is funny because we're obviously friends on Instagram, and she went to, I think it was like a bachelorette party, and she posted a story of her with her portable pump in the club, like, what's
Oh my god,
that's
so funny.
And that's the
damn well
dedication
that
that
would've
it
been me.
takes. That's the dedication that it takes. And I remember her posting a story a couple of weeks later saying, like, this is me. It's like freaking midnight, and I'm up cleaning pump stuff because I'm dedicated to this. But this stuff's not easy, man. Because it's true. Yes, hard work and dedication for sure.
That is so crazy. But real quick, because I always have something to say. So, Heather's bachelorette weekend was my first weekend away from my daughter. I don't want to say I was excited. I was so sad leaving her. I knew she was in good hands. I was excited to be with Heather. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, man, I would have been just like her if I was still pumping. I was done at that point, but it's like, I would have been just holding it like, hey, everybody. I would have been the same.
Yep. For sure.
I love that.
Sure.
It's so funny.
Yeah, she was so, I remember seeing that story and like, yeah, I get it, girl. But
that is hilarious.
I mean, it's so true. It is. It's hard work. Breastfeeding is hard work and dedication. And the end of the story, and I think what everyone who wrote into us, and even our own, at the end of the day, you gotta do what's gonna make you happy and what's going to put you. And like Diane, you said it. Like, especially if even before you had kids, like, I mean, I had anxiety before I ever had a kid, and trust and believe that when I was dealing with like the mental load that comes with breastfeeding, that anxiety was freaking rough. So I think everyone who wrote in, what all of us are saying, it's just like, you need to do what is going to be best for you. That way you can do what is best for your baby, and and everything will work out the way it's supposed to. And I think one of our listeners who wrote in a couple episodes ago, like, don't be hard on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. And I hope what we've showed any of the listeners today who maybe aren't familiar, everybody struggles with it in some way, shape, or form. So it's important that you guys know that, and it's just you gotta do you, and you gotta be happy. You gotta be happy. Or no, that's the wrong words.
Yeah.
You gotta be
bad.
I
don't know how it
you
goes,
gotta
but
be
I know what song
bold.
you're
You gotta
singing.
be stronger.
I was like,
we're rewriting lyrics.
I think that you said that perfectly, but I think something that we should add as well is like, and I know that we said it in the birthing episode, even if you say, I'm going to breastfeed, even if you say, I'm going to formula feed, that can change.
100%.
Like, at any point in time, that could change for whatever reason it may be. Maybe you decide you're going to formula feed and your baby isn't taking to it well, so you change your mind and you decide to breastfeed. Maybe you decide to breastfeed and all of a sudden you are having all the struggles in the world. Maybe it's a production or producing. Maybe it's, latching issues, whatever it may be, and you have to change your path. The thing is you just keep going every single day and doing whatever you need to do for your child, for yourself, for your baby. And that is the rest of your life.
100%.
This is just the very, very small, tiny preview of what you are getting into moving forward forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
So it's like, you make that decision. Guess what? You making decisions forever.
So is that your only formula friend?
I think, Diane, I obviously know a lot of girls who have formula fed, but I think you are very different and unique in that, like, you had made that decision, like you said, even well before you, like, got pregnant. So you're the only person I knew that even before, and you're like, yeah, I just knew. And I love, and what I really loved about that is, like, you had this thought in your head, and despite people trying to say something, especially even medical professionals who, whatever, trying to
chime in,
like, give, like, given their 2 cents, you were like, I know what's going to be best for me and what's going to be best for my baby. And so I really like to hear, like, I think that was like a really important thing, and I really wanted to make sure to share that with everybody. I obviously, like, I have a lot of friends, like, I mean, I use formula, and I know a lot of people who are like,
I was going to say, yeah,
I guess I
know a lot of people
planned
who also formula feed. Yeah. You planned it. I know a lot of people that did, and I know people who planned it as well, but it's like they didn't write in, so they're not here, and you're here. So
don't feel ashamed if that was the reason.
I know. Yeah, maybe it is.
Some
people are not, comfortable talking about certain things, and maybe some. I mean, obviously, the majority of people that don't either write in or whatever it may be, people are busy. People are busy. Oh, yeah. Totally understandable. But this needs to be a platform. It needs to be talked about. People need to understand that feeding your baby is best. 100%. If it is formula, if it is breastfed, whatever it may be that works for your child, that works for you, is the best thing that there is. So we want to hear the stories that are from every side of the spectrum.
Yes.
Every single scale there is. So we appreciate you telling yours, and, all of it. From anyone else who sent in the stories as well. Whoever's listening right now that is either pregnant, a new mom, thinking, oh, I'm going to try breastfeeding. Maybe you breastfed and now you want to formula feed.
Yep.
Because of what Diane said. Maybe you formula fed, now you want to try breastfeeding. Who knows? Who cares? Do what's best for your child and what is best for you.
100%.
Over, out, mic drop. You're welcome.
Don't actually drop
and
your
it
mic,
is
though. It's expensive.
Sorry. It is possible to get your breast milk back if you dried it up. I don't know how.
Yeah.
You Googled it. Right.
It's possible. I don't know how, but you can. I could have done it, but there's options, people.
There are options, because I actually follow she's like a lactation consultant, and she said that a good rule of thumb is however long it's been since you stopped breastfeeding or since you whatever, that's how long it would take for you to get your milk back. But you can do it. It just takes you pumping or trying to get your baby to latch or whatever on a consistent schedule over and over and over again until your milk supply builds back up.
6.5 years.
So if you wanted to, Rachel, you could do a 6.5.
Asking for a friend.
I love it.
No, something also, Diane, that you had said earlier that I was actually going to ask, but you had covered it, was when you had said that you had that day or that moment where you thought, like, what if I wanted to breastfeed, or like, what if that is something that I maybe should have done or could have done, whatever. It's like, I was going to ask, like, do you ever think about that? Like, is that something that has crossed your mind? Because for me, I knew that I wanted to, like I said earlier, I didn't care either way. I was going to feed my kid. I knew I wanted to, because for me, I think that I struggled a lot mentally with the fact that I was a working mom, and that was going to be my bonding with her. So that for me was very important. And I knew I was going to be gone a lot. So when I was there, she was mine. And I knew other people were going to feed her. I knew I was going to be pumping, or they would feed her however. But in that moment when I was there, I wanted to be that for her. So that's how I chose my path, my journey. And so, I thought about that when you were saying it, but you were like, I thought about it. And then I woke up and I was fine and everything's great and I made the right decision, which is perfect. That's still perfect.
And I bonded with my baby. Like, of course I did.
Of course. Absolutely.
But I totally get what you're saying, because you're pregnant for 9 months. Hopefully everything goes well. And then they're born and you have to share your baby with everybody. So
right.
I definitely, I get that. I wanted him to be mine as long as possible, and it was definitely hard to let go. So I totally get that.
It's crazy. Well, now I'm just like, you guys want her? Dang, I swear, I gotta stop making these jokes. People are really gonna think I'm serious.
No,
I'm in love with her.
But if you were a mom, I think anyone would be like, yeah, I get it. I get it 100%. Like,
my mom heard the joke I made from the ABC episode where the selling your kid, and when she walked away and I was like, get out of here before I get a nose job. My mom's like, Rachel, you can't talk like that on there. And I was like, oh, if they don't know me by now.
The PC police.
Oh, man. I was like, get out. You're not welcome if you get offended by that. That's an easy joke. I hold back. Yeah. But no, thank you. I mean, as many times as we've said it on here today, I think 3 moms sitting here feeding your baby is best, taking care of yourself, taking care of your child, taking care of your child's emotional, mental, physical needs, as well as taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, whatever. So it's you got to do it all. Mom's got to do it all.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much for sharing, because I think one of the big things, obviously we started this podcast as a mom cast specifically, and I think one of the things we definitely want to do is share all different stories, all different types of stories. So yours is just particular and unique, and I just wanted to make sure that we shared yours. So thank you.
Yes.
Well,
I love it.
I was so excited.
I love it. And
she
she knew your story, but I didn't, so I loved hearing it. So
cool.
Thank you for sharing that with me.
One thing, so any of you listeners out there, thank you for sharing your stories and your comments and all of the engagement that you've given us. And we're still on a mom kick here, so we've got more topics coming up, and make sure to let us know your stories whenever we have more topics. You can obviously find us on Instagram and TikTok, wine_time_pod, WHINE wine time pod, or message us at winetimemoms@gmail.com. For sure, because we want to hear it. We tell you guys every freaking week we want to hear it, and we're serious because we want to share it with the world.
Yeah, Diane's like, they are serious. And if you do not respond, they will come for you. I will say, because I can say this, because we have a little game plan going on right here. So if you've made it this far, one of our upcoming episodes is going to be an episode on like going out with your kid. Whether it's grocery shopping, if it's going out to eat, whatever it is, like tell us your little horror stories, or if it's a wonderful story, maybe your kid is so polite and orders nicely. I don't know, whatever it may
yeah,
be.
Good luck
Tell
with
us
that.
those stories. Maybe your kid ran away in a grocery store and you couldn't find him. Mine's been in a coat rack and I didn't know which one, but I heard her. I couldn't find her, but I knew she was around. Stuff like that. So it's like, if you have those moments, like if you're out to eat and your kid does something crazy, or maybe something happens to you, whatever it may be, outings with your children, please send in those stories, because that will be one of our upcoming episodes pretty soon.
Yes.
So we need to hear it. Obviously, we'll post it on social media for you guys to see as well. But yeah, we love when you guys chime in. Do it more. I think that anytime we have ever posted anything, thanks, Diane.
Diane always writes in. I love it. It's the best. It's so supportive. It's the best.
It is. It's very nice. It's very nice. So we appreciate it, and keep it coming.
Yeah. And be sure to also rate and review and subscribe and follow and whatever else on wherever you get your podcasts. And we're gonna be back with more mom talk next week.
Yeah. Next Tuesday. You got anything else you want to add over there, Diane?
Yeah, I'm talking this whole time. A lot of women, especially first-time moms, don't know that you can advocate for yourself. You can turn down treatment. So, like, the next time I go in and I don't want to breastfeed and she insists on expressing my boob for me, no, ma'am. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
It's up to you. You don't want to do skin to skin. You don't want to do, like, the cord clamping, anything. It's up to you, and you can turn things down, and nurses are here for it, too. My sister is a postpartum nurse, and she's always telling me, like, it's up to you. So, do you.
Yeah,
and if you want to, and if some nurse isn't there for you, you call us up, and we'll bring Philip with us, and then that nurse will know what's up.
For sure.
Hey, Philip has to listen to this episode. He got all the shout-outs. He's getting all the shout-outs. I love it.
For sure.
Rightfully so. It's deserving. Yeah. You need that support system.
Well, thanks again, Diane.
Thank you for sharing
and
that.
thanks, Philip.
Yes. Both of you.
I'll tell him.
And until next week, y'all. Thank you.
Yes. Until next week. We will see you next week. I didn't sing it all, so I got to sing right now.
Wine
All right,
time.
Diane, sing for us.
You
We
gotta
can't
chime
leave till
in,
you
Diane.
sing.
It's a what's
A
a
harmony?
Yeah, that's the word.
Goodbye.
Okay. Okay, okay, love you.
Okay, I love you, bye.
Okay, love you, bye.
That's a little bit of Brit in there too. Please don't put that in.